Alright guys, it's that time of the week and we are back for our championship score predictions. Plenty to talk through in today's video. Obviously we had all the matches taking place in midweek, all will be discussed throughout today's video. But of course the main focus will be on the upcoming matches this weekend. I want to hear from you guys in the comments down below. Do drop your score predictions in the comments. And if you did go in to enjoy it, make sure to leave a like. If we could hit 400 likes, that would be massively appreciated. But without any further ado, let's jump in. And starting out with the Friday night game, that sees Derby going up against Portsmouth. A big game in the bottom half of the table. If Portsmouth win this one, they'll be just 1 point behind Derby in the league table. A few weeks ago, I didn't think anyone would be saying that, but Portsmouth have really turned their season around recently. They're unbeaten in 4 matches, coming off the back of a goalless draw with Norwich in midweek. Weren't a great deal of clear-cut chances in that game, but Pompey could have easily won it. They did have the ball in the back of the net, but that goal was ruled out for a foul on the keeper. Going up against a Derby side who have somewhat lost their way in recent weeks, albeit I think it was a very solid point in midweek against Burnley. Goalless in the end. Derby carried a bit more of a threat in that game as well compared to their last away match before that against Leeds United. For Derby, it is 6 without a win in the league. Obviously, they've really built their season so far on their strong home form, but even that's deserted them of late. They have lost their last 2 matches at home. With that being said, those games against Swansea and Sheffield Wednesday very easily could have gone a different way. Wednesday ended up scoring a last-minute winner against Derby, and against Swansea they had a lot of chances in the second half. This one feels quite tight, to be honest with you. A draw here wouldn't surprise me. I've just got a sneaky feeling that for some reason this game may go against the form book and Derby get back to winning ways here. I just fancy them for a set piece or two. 2-1 Derby I'm saying for that game, but tough to rule off Portsmouth at the moment because they have been a lot more competitive recently. Next then, and to the early kickoffs on Saturday, we're heading to Ashton Gate for Bristol City up against QPR. A solid point for Bristol City last time out away at Sunderland, albeit could have been a little bit sweeter. Obviously they conceded late on in that game, but going to the Stadium of Light and walking away with a point I don't think is to be sniffed at. Now this won't be an easy game right now against a QPR side who have looked reinvigorated in recent weeks, and credit to QPR and the majority of that fan base really, because even when they were sat at the foot of the championship table, I never really saw anyone losing faith in Cifuentes, and at times probably some of their performances didn't get the points that maybe they should have, but they're unbeaten in their last 5. It's 3 wins from 4, another great win for them in midweek against Oxford, back-to-back home wins, and that really had been their Achilles heel up until this point of the season, not being able to win at home. But yeah, they're on a bit of a roll right now. It's a tough one to call. I always feel like these Saturday early kickoffs always tend to be quite tight and low scoring. Bristol City, while they've not been on the best run of form recently, they've only won 1 of their last 5 games, they don't tend to lose that many games at Ashton Gate. They've only lost twice at home this season, and those 2 losses came against high-flying Sheffield United and Burnley. So have a feeling we're in store for a tight encounter here. I'm talking myself into a draw, I think. 1-1 between these two, I'm saying. After that, we're off to Coventry up against Hull City. Frank Lampard had a real mixed bag in his first 3 games at Coventry. A win, loss and a draw in his first 3 games in charge. And to be honest, that probably sums up Coventry as a whole this season. Just very inconsistent. Looking to bounce back from a loss in midweek against West Brom. A tough one to call right now with Hull, obviously. Ruben Sellers coming in midweek for his first game in charge against Watford. Thought it was an improved performance from Hull, and I mean, as they have done in a few performances recently, they've been getting into some decent areas, but that lack of quality in the final third really is telling. It feels like they just need to accumulate as many points as possible in this December period, get to January, and hopefully they can add a little bit more in the final third, because they're crying out for a little bit more right now from what I've seen. Coventry are just a really frustrating one at the moment. They did have some really good chances, I thought, in midweek against West Brom, but obviously couldn't make anything stick in the final third. Score prediction here. A draw wouldn't surprise me. I think I'm just edging it maybe to Coventry with home advantage. Score prediction, I'm going to go 1-0 Cov, but it's a tough one to call with Hull maybe having a bit of a bounce under Sellers. And then to the last early kickoff we've got on Saturday. That sees my side Preston North End going up against Leeds United. This should be a good atmosphere at Deepdale. Preston coming off the back of a win in midweek. Finally an away win, our first away win since March, which is absolutely crazy. But beating Cardiff 2-0 should be a real confidence booster. Prior to that Cardiff game, we were coming off the back of a really good performance against Sheffield Wednesday. Didn't manage to convert that into all 3 points, but we were able to do that in midweek, and we're now going into what I'm in no doubt will be one of our toughest games of the season. Leeds, it does feel like, are on a bit of a roll right now, barring that blip against Blackburn. They've been churning out the 3 points. It's now 5 wins from their last 6 league matches. Brilliant stuff in midweek to see off Middlesbrough. But I will put a bit of an argument up for North End maybe grabbing something from this game. While Preston haven't been winning a lot of football matches recently, we've not been losing a lot either. We've actually only lost 2 of our last 13 league matches. We've just been drawing a hell of a lot of games recently. But there seems to be something about North End this season where we are able to raise our game when playing the sides at the top end of the Championship. For instance, so far this season we've played everyone currently inside the top 6 apart from Leeds. And so far this season we've taken points off Burnley, Sunderland, Blackburn, West Brom, and you can include Middlesbrough in there if you like, who are 7th at the moment. The only side in the top 7 who we've lost to this season is Sheffield United, and we played them on the opening day of the season when Ryan Lowe was still in charge. So don't get me wrong, pound for pound, Leeds are a much better team than we are, and this will be a game they'll be aiming to win. I'm sure it'll be a packed out away end at Deepdale, but like we did last time we played Leeds, I think it was on Boxing Day when we beat them 2-1, just have a feeling that maybe we could pull something out of the bag here. Score prediction, I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw here. Back Preston to maybe grab something. Next then, and into the Saturday 3 PM kickoffs, we're off to Ewood Park for Blackburn up against Luton. And who saw this run of form coming from Blackburn Rovers? They've won 5 in a row now, and funnily enough, their last 4 results have all been 1-0. We did predict a 1-0 for Blackburn in midweek against Sheffield Wednesday. In the end, that came true, and yeah, full credit to John Eustace and that squad at the moment. They're on an absolute roll, 4 consecutive clean sheets, and you have to fancy the home side to pick up a result against Luton here. Luton, big result for them in midweek, beating Stoke with that goal late on. But it's sort of been the story of their season so far to pick up the points while they're at Kenilworth Road, and then away from home, just nothing's been falling for them this season. In away matches, they've lost 6 on the bounce, Luton. With the way Blackburn are playing at the moment, I think you've got to fancy them for this one. I think Luton could be good for a goal in this one, but it's very hard to see past Blackburn right now. 2-1 Blackburn, I'm going to say, for that game. Next up, we're off to the Riverside for Middlesbrough up against Millwall, and it's a tough one to get a read on Millwall at the moment. It'll be Neil Harris's final game in charge, this one, and then they'll obviously look to give the role to someone else. So what version of Millwall shows up for this game, I'm not totally sure. It was obviously a narrow margin of defeat in midweek against Sheffield United. I fancy this one probably to be quite tight as well. From a Middlesbrough perspective, I reckon they'll be quite happy to be returning to the Riverside on what has been, coming off the back of 2 tough away matches, going back-to-back away at Burnley and then away at Leeds just a few days later. 1 point from those 2 matches isn't an ideal return for Borough, and maybe shows they're perhaps not quite at the pace of those sides competing for the top 2 right now. But going into this proper festive period, the fixture list starts to ease up for Borough a little bit. Millwall won't make this one easy, don't tend to give that much away to the opposition, but I'm just going to edge Middlesbrough for a slim 1-0 home victory in this one. Back Carrick's side just to get back to winning ways, perhaps. After that, we go to Oxford up against Sheffield Wednesday. 2 sides who will be looking to bounce back from disappointing performances in midweek. Oxford losing that game against QPR now means it's just 1 win in their last 14 league matches. That really is a grim run of form, and especially when you consider that win came against a Hull City side who they played when they were badly lacking confidence. Going up against a Wednesday side who I have been pretty underwhelmed by their last couple of performances at Hillsborough. weren't great against Preston, obviously managed to snatch a point from that game in the end, and then lost that one in midweek against Blackburn. With that being said, Wednesday have been pretty decent on the road of late. Their last 2 away matches, they have walked away with 6 points from them, beating both Hull and Derby in away matches of late. It feels like quite a tight game here. If Oxford are going to turn things around, then I feel like it's going to come in a home game like this. But with Wednesday's record on the road recently, I'm narrowly edging towards them for a 2-1 away victory. But Oxford really need to pull the finger out soon. After that, we go to Bramall Lane for Sheffield United up against Plymouth, and the Blades have to be licking their lips coming into this fixture, obviously. Coming off the back of a battling away performance away at Millwall, it was Ryan Brewster's goal who made the difference in that one, and they have to fancy their chances against a Plymouth side who have conceded more goals than any other Championship club so far this season, have been almost exclusively reliant on their home form this season, but even that deserted them in midweek as they lost against Swansea. I don't feel like many people in the comments down below are going to be giving Plymouth much of a chance in this one. Now, in terms of Sheffield United, they've only scored more than 2 goals on one occasion this season, and that came against Oxford when they beat them 3-0. It feels like this is a good opportunity to get a few goals. Score prediction for me, I'm going to go 3-0 Sheffield United. Just feels like a good time to be playing Plymouth at the moment. After that, we go to Stoke up against Cardiff. A massive game at the bottom end of the table. Stoke slipping ever closer to the relegation zone. It was another loss for them in midweek, losing late on against Luton. Now means it's 3 losses on the bounce and 6 games without a win. Now that's also the case for Cardiff, who are 6 games winless in the Championship. Another loss for them in midweek, this time against Preston North End. Really disappointing display, I thought, from Cardiff, who now find themselves in the bottom 3. At full time, you could hear boos ringing out around the stadium, and to be honest, on either side here, it feels like both clubs have both got the capacity to go really toxic at full time if they don't get a decent performance or result that obviously goes their way. From a Cardiff perspective, I do feel like they're probably better in away matches right now when the onus is on the opposition to come at them a little bit more. I think Cardiff are a lot better playing on the break than when the onus is on them to break a side down. In midweek against Preston, I thought they were really poor with how they used the ball. Really bad at build-up play. Quite a lot of wasteful and quite pointless possession at times from Cardiff, not really getting anywhere with the ball. It feels like a game that's got draw written all over it, to be honest with you. But when looking at both 11s right now, I do think that maybe Stoke have more match winners in their squad than Cardiff do. I feel like it'll be ugly, but I'm going to go 1-0 Stoke in that game. Feels like the first goal is quite pivotal in that one. After that, to the Liberty for Swansea up against Sunderland. Sunderland having a bit of a frustrating time right now. It was a draw for them in midweek against Bristol City. Now means the overall form book is 6 draws from their last 8 Championship matches. Definitely had the better chances in that game from what I saw of the highlights. Had a penalty appeal waved away as well, but Roberts getting them back into it to snatch a point late on. This isn't the ideal sort of fixture to be going into right now, I wouldn't say, from a Sunderland perspective. Swansea, they've had a decent bit of momentum about them recently. I think recent performances have been pretty good. Ever since they lost that bonkers game at the Liberty to Leeds United, they've gone unbeaten in their last 4 matches. Say what you like about Plymouth Argyle, going away to Home Park has been a pretty tough fixture this season, generally speaking. So the fact that Swansea went there, came away with all 3 points in a 2-1 victory, definitely isn't to be sniffed at. Home form at the Liberty for Swansea has been a bit spotty this season. They've only won 1 of their last 6 home matches, but I could definitely see them getting something from this game, and I wouldn't be surprised if it ends level. Score prediction there, I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw between those two. Next up, we're off to Vicarage Road for Watford up against West Brom. Watford, not great in midweek, I didn't think, against Hull. Not a very fluid performance, but I think they'll take a point in the context of they conceded quite late on, and then a few minutes later, obviously Vata managed to get them back into that game. They'll take a point, get back to Vicarage Road in this one, where typically so far this season they have been very strong. Now, West Brom, how good did that result feel in midweek? finally ending this ridiculous streak of draws with all 3 points against Coventry. It's funny because throughout that drawing streak, West Brom have probably played better than they did in midweek when they finally got that win, but you absolutely take it when it comes around. Obviously had to defend quite well at times to keep Coventry at bay, took their goals well when they came along. This one does feel like quite a tight encounter, to be honest with you. Watford are yet to lose at home this season, and West Brom have only lost once on the road. I'm talking myself into a draw, I think, between these two. Score prediction, 1-1 between these two, I'm saying. And then we're going to finish the weekend off at Carrow Road for Norwich up against Burnley. Norwich, I think, just were after any sort of reaction after that really disappointing showing against QPR. In midweek, they got that with a point against Portsmouth. Not the prettiest of performances from Norwich, but a clean sheet on the road. You get back to Carrow Road here. In all circumstances, Norwich will probably take that, but this isn't going to be an easy fixture. Generally speaking, I think Scott Parker's done pretty well in these sorts of matches so far this season. I think these types of games tend to suit Burnley. Away from home, Burnley have got a better record than any Championship club this season. They've taken 18 points from the 10 away matches they've had this far into the campaign. Norwich will be expected to come on to Burnley in this one. It'll leave a bit of space in behind, and generally speaking, that's where Burnley have sort of come alive so far this season. With that being said, it was a disappointing one for Burnley in midweek. They themselves played out a goalless draw against Derby, but Burnley have struggled with those sorts of matches so far this season, haven't they? Especially at Turf Moor, with those sides that do come and sit in and look to be solid defensively. I'm not sure Norwich will be like that in this one. I think they'll try and go for it a little bit more. Norwich don't tend to lose many games at Carrow Road, it has to be said, but if I had to back either one here, I think I am edging it to Burnley. Score prediction, I'm going to go 2-1 Burnley. I just think Scott Parker's got a very good record in those big games. But guys, there you have it. That will now wrap it up for today's video. Thank you very much for tuning in. Make sure to get all your score predictions in the comments down below. But apart from that, thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next one.